Let's get more on this. Frank Ucciardo joins us from the United Nations headquarters. Frank, that was Hassan Rouhani giving a press conference in the last hour. Give us a bit more context on what he had to say.
Well, basically, he spent almost an hour speaking almost exclusively about the Iran nuclear deal and pretty much trying to target and punish with his remarks the United States for pulling out of it. And as we just heard, he was emphasizing the point that basically the U.S. was trying to pressure Iran by pulling out of that deal, but actually they are suffering the consequences of being isolated. Now, earlier in the afternoon, I got a chance to ask him a question about basically what Iran's role will now be in Syria, considering the deal that Turkey cut with Russia for a buffer zone. Let's give a listen to that. Will the Iranian role in Syria change now that Turkey and Russia has cut a deal for a buffer zone? How do you see the role for Iran in Syria going forward?
In
Syria, we were pursuing different objectives, the most important and the first of which was fighting terrorism. We succeeded in that. Our presence in Syria will continue until such time that the Syrian government needs our presence there and continues to request our presence. We will remain there until then. Vis-a-vis decreasing tensions, and the buffer zones, all three are present. Both Iran and Turkey, as well as Russia. And we do hope that as soon as possible the new constitution will be formulated, and based upon which elections are going to be held in Syria for their next government to be chosen. And I do think alongside these efforts, humanitarian aid, the repatriation of refugees, of the internally displaced population, these are our main objectives in Syria.
I did ask him a question after that. I did ask a question after that, asking him whether or not Assad had a role in the government of Syria with elections. He kind of dodged it by saying whoever wins the elections. But now let's be joined by Parvaz. She is a global politics reporter from Think Progress. Thank you for joining us here on TRT World. Did we hear anything new in the Iranian rhetoric towards the United States here today? Anything new from the General Assembly speech?
Yes, so what President Rouhani really emphasized today was the fact that, the U.S. has nothing new to bring to the table in terms of threats or, issues like that, that all the sanctions have been done before, that Iran is well prepared and has a long history of dealing with it. He also made it quite clear that it's in the best interest of the U.S. to rejoin the deal, and that's what he sees happening, because as he put it, this is going to hurt U.S. interests.
Does it appear that Iran really does have such a solid support among the nations of the United Nations?
Well, certainly if you were to take the UN Security Council today as a poll, then yes, definitely. There was not a single nation there that really agreed with President Trump in terms of believing that the JCPOA was a bad deal. They all had issues with Iran in terms of, other regional activities, but by and large, everybody agreed with this other signatories to the deal that it's a good deal and it's a step forward.
Do you think that the European Union nations will have to come up with some kind of mechanism to get around the U.S. sanctions, to get around the U.S. financial system?
Well, they're certainly trying, and they don't appreciate the extraterritorial sanctions.
Thank you for joining us here on TRT World. That was Parvaz. She is the global politics reporter for Think Progress. I'm Frank Ucciardo. Let's go back to you in the studio.